Holy. He said what?
They're so racist. They're so racist. Some of that he went through was not racism. It was just some in-law.
It all started with Chris Rock stepping onto that Netflix stage. The lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and within seconds he turned what could have been just another comedy special into a cultural earthquake. He didn't ease into it. He didn't dance around it. He went straight for the jugular, and his target was none other than Meghan Markle. Rock shredded her narrative with sharp precision, pointing out the obvious contradictions that so many people had quietly thought about but hadn't said out loud. And then, boom, he said it. She had hit the light-skinned lottery and was still acting like she was blindsided, still playing the victim card, and the audience erupted.
Hey, it's the husband formerly known as Prince. Any luck getting a job?
Oh, they had me driving for Uber Eats, but there were too many damn rules. Don't touch the food. Don't taste the food. Drive on the road.
I'm sorry, Rowdy Weddy.
She was hunting for a man in England. She wanted wealth and she wanted fame, and she targeted Harry.
Now imagine Joe Rogan sitting down to watch this moment. For years, Rogan has been one of the biggest voices calling out Hollywood hypocrisy, fake victimhood, and celebrities chasing fame while pretending they don't want it. And when Chris Rock dropped those lines, you can picture Rogan shaking his head laughing and saying exactly what millions were thinking. Finally, someone had the guts to say it. Because that's exactly what Chris Rock did. He stripped away the polished PR spin Meghan and Harry have been selling and exposed it for what it really was, a carefully crafted act. Rogan would start by pointing out the sheer absurdity of Meghan's claim that she didn't know what she was getting into. He'd laugh at the idea of someone marrying into the British royal family and somehow being surprised by the attention, the traditions, and the scrutiny. As Rogan has said in countless podcasts, you don't accidentally fall into global royalty like you trip on a sidewalk crack. It takes planning, it takes ambition, and it takes a very clear goal. Meghan Markle wasn't some naive actress wandering into a fairy tale. She was hunting for status, wealth, and relevance. Rogan would hit this hard, explaining that Chris Rock's bit worked so well because it exposed Meghan's whole act in under 60 seconds.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. I kind of took you out of your natural habitat. I'm surprised you're still breathing.
It's so nice to have you back in London, Meghan. I've missed our little lunches.
We've never had lunch together, Kate.
Well, we must continue the tradition.
A bit of a laugh at Harry and Meghan's expense because I've finally caught up with this South Park episode.
It's quite vicious in a way, but quite funny as well.
What matters is what we have on the inside.
But that was just the beginning. Rogan would dive into why Rock's jokes landed with such force, because comedy works best when it reveals a truth that everyone already knows deep down, but feels too afraid to say. When Rock joked about Meghan complaining on Oprah and pretending she had no idea about royal life, he wasn't just being funny, he was holding up a mirror to the public and saying, "Look, we all see through this." And that's what destroyed Meghan's carefully curated image. Rogan would argue that it wasn't just Chris Rock doing a comedy set. It was Chris Rock detonating a bomb under the foundation of Meghan's PR empire. Rogan would talk about how this one moment sparked a chain reaction. The clips went viral. TikTok users were cutting up Rock's lines, looping them endlessly. Twitter exploded with memes. YouTube creators were breaking down the set frame by frame, analyzing every punchline. Suddenly, Meghan wasn't the sympathetic duchess anymore. She was the punchline, and once comedians smell blood in the water, it doesn't stop. Rogan has seen this play out before. He's talked about it with other celebrities who overplay their hands. The second you turn yourself into a contradiction, begging for privacy while signing a $100 million Netflix deal, you've lost control of the narrative.
You gotta be kidding me. I've brought plenty of conflict to the show.
I'm sorry, Meghan. It's just not working out. All you talked about all season was your line of ketchup.
It's so funny, too, that you keep calling me Meghan. You know, it's Meghan now.
I feel like the focus is starting to shift off of me. Maybe in editing you'll fix it.
People were saying meh. It's not meh. It's pronounced me. The H is...
I don't know what to do. How are we going to pay for school for Archie?
I have to tell you, I never realized so many things cost money. Like this chicken. I bet you had to pay for it.
I'm sorry, I'm just really stressed. We're completely out of money.
Maybe it's time we dip into your fortune from Suits.
There is no fortune.
And that's what Rogan would hammer on again and again. Meghan Markle's obsession with playing the victim. Rogan has always been critical of celebrities who act like the world owes them sympathy while they live in multi-million-dollar mansions and fly on private jets. He'd laugh at the absurdity of Meghan crying about how tough royal life was, all while cashing giant checks and turning her struggles into a global media brand. For Rogan, Rock's set wasn't just funny, it was a necessary correction to years of unchallenged whining. Rogan would break down specific lines too. Take Rock's point about the royal family being the original racists. Rogan would chuckle at how blunt and obvious that was. So Meghan playing dumb, acting like she was blindsided, comes off as ridiculous. Rogan would compare it to someone joining the NBA and saying, wait, I had no idea they play basketball here. The crowd would laugh, but Rogan would stress the deeper point. Meghan didn't walk in blind, she walked in with a strategy. And that strategy was clear. Attach herself to a global institution, marry a prince, and catapult her Hollywood-level fame into something untouchable. Rogan would argue that Meghan wasn't just marrying Harry, she was marrying the brand of royalty. She was chasing the status, the attention, and the power that came with it. And Chris Rock blowing the whistle on that, turning it into comedy golds, was the beginning of the end for her victim narrative. Rogan would also talk about how the comedy world operates. Once one comedian lands a perfect shot, others can't resist piling on. That's exactly what happened after Rock's set. Late-night hosts tore into Meghan and Harry, mocking their hypocrisy about privacy, their constant complaining, and their awkward Netflix doc. British comedians skewered them as clueless and melodramatic. And then came the knockout blow, South Park's worldwide privacy tour episode. Rogan would laugh at how brutal it was, pointing out that once you become a South Park character, you're done. You're not a serious figure anymore. You're a permanent cartoon joke. He'd highlight how memes and comedy sketches are far more damaging than bad press. Because while bad press fades, jokes stick, they repeat, they become shorthand in culture. Rogan would explain that now anytime Meghan tries to talk about charity work, activism, or her struggles. People will hear it through the echo of Rock's jokes and South Park's gags. Every time she says privacy, the world hears it as satire. That's why Chris Rock's special was so devastating. It shifted her image from a misunderstood duchess to a running gag. Rogan would go deeper, saying that Meghan and Harry's whole brand was built on contradictions. They wanted to reject the royal system while cashing in on royal fame. They claimed to want privacy while making themselves the center of documentaries, interviews, and book deals. They positioned themselves as rebels while living the most privileged life imaginable. Rogan would point out that people can forgive mistakes, but they can't forgive hypocrisy. And Meghan and Harry turned hypocrisy into their entire identity. Another point Rogan would emphasize is how Meghan underestimated comedy. Politicians can survive scandals, celebrities can rebound from bad PR, but once comedians turn you into a permanent punchline, there's no coming back. Rogan would compare it to the way people still joke about O.J. Simpson or the way Bill Clinton will forever be linked to Monica Lewinsky jokes. Comedy cements your image in a way nothing else can. And now Meghan Markle isn't seen as a duchess, an actress, or even a public figure. She's a joke. Rogan would also touch on Chris Rock's skill as a comedian. He didn't need props, skits, or theatrics. He used pure logic disguised as humor. By pointing out that Meghan marrying into royalty and acting shocked was like marrying into the Budweiser family and being surprised they drink beer, he destroyed her entire act in a single punchline. Rogan, as a comedian himself, would admire that. He'd say that's what real stand-up is. Cutting through the nonsense and exposing the truth in a way that makes people laugh and nod at the same time. And Rogan wouldn't just stop with Chris Rock. He'd analyze how the reaction exposed a bigger shift in public opinion. For years, Meghan and Harry managed to keep their brand afloat with carefully managed interviews and sympathetic coverage. But once comedy turned on them, the public stopped buying the victim act. Rogan would explain that once people start laughing at you instead of with you, your power is gone. Meghan's story wasn't being taken seriously anymore. It was being mocked into oblivion. He'd also dig into the psychology of attention. Rogan has often said on his podcast that attention is the biggest addiction in our culture. People will do anything for it. And Meghan Markle is the perfect example. She claimed to hate the spotlight, but everything she did screamed that she was chasing it. Rogan would argue that Chris Rock exposed this perfectly, the contradiction between Meghan's words and her actions. She wasn't running from attention. She was addicted to it. Rogan would laugh at how Meghan and Harry tried to spin their exit from royal life as some noble, courageous move. In reality, it looked like a money grab wrapped in self-pity. He'd point out how they left the palace but jumped straight into Netflix, Spotify, and endless media deals. That's not escaping fame, that's monetizing it. And when Chris Rock put that on blast, it gave everyone else permission to laugh at the obvious. He'd also break down how Meghan's PR team must have reacted. Rogan would joke about some publicists in California pulling their hair out, realizing that in 5 minutes, Chris Rock did more damage than the British tabloids could have done in 5 years. Because PR spin can't fight viral jokes. Memes move faster than press releases, and once the internet turns you into a meme, you've lost control of your image. And that's exactly what happened. Rogan would walk his audience through how the internet exploded with edits, memes, and sarcastic voiceovers mocking Meghan's Netflix scenes, her contradictions in interviews, and her awkward speeches. Every clip became ammunition. Every contradiction became a joke. Rogan would shake his head and say, that's the thing. Once the internet smells blood, it's over. You can't outtalk memes. You can't outspin comedy. You just get buried under it. For years, people felt like they couldn't criticize Meghan without being labeled unfair or insensitive. But Rock broke that dam. He said what everyone was thinking, and once he did, the floodgates opened. Rogan would point out that comedy has always played this role, shifting cultural narratives by giving people permission to laugh at something they were afraid to say out loud. He'd emphasize that Meghan's downfall wasn't political, it wasn't royal drama, and it wasn't even about the press. It was about credibility. Once you lose credibility, everything you say after sounds hollow, and Meghan Markle lost hers the second the comedy world turned her into a parody of herself. Rogan would end his rant by saying that Meghan wanted to be a global icon, but instead she became a global punchline, and Chris Rock was the one who pulled the trigger.